Well, hello, my dear friends. Today we're going to talk about licensing your art and how much money you can make from licensing art. I'm going to share with you three different income levels that artists get to when they're licensing their art. And I'm going to share with you my own personal experiences, including one license deal where we made $120,000 in royalties in less than 6 months. So hang out with me. And while you're here, I want you to hit the subscribe button and hit the like button because that helps me out with my channel. All right. So, first of all, what is art licensing? For those of you who aren't aware of what it is, it's when a company pays you to put your art on their products. So I brought some examples to show you of licensing deals that we've done for my husband Drew Brophy's art. And here's one example. This is a water bottle company where they took his art, they had it printed on the back, and then you've got this cool little window where you can see inside. It was pretty cool. We did this deal for quite a few years. That's an old deal that we did. One of our more recent deals is with Sublime and one of their licensees for this product called Drink Two Joints. And it's basically liquid THC you pour in your drink. Um, and I'll show you a few more examples in a minute. But first, I want to talk about when I first learned about licensing art, it was in 2002. It was a long time ago when we had a company called Whammo and they wanted to put Drew's art on their boogie boards. And the reason they wanted to do it is because their boogie boards were not being purchased or picked up by surf shops because they were just plain and boring. And so they thought, well, if we take the art of a surfing artist, put it on the boogie boards, maybe then we can sell the boogie boards to surf shops. Well, at first, Drew and I weren't even sure if we wanted to do the deal. And it was probably not the best deal we could get. We did say yes to it. And they were right. As soon as they put Drew's art on their boogie boards, surf shops all over the country and actually all over the world picked them up and bought them. And so it turned out to be a really good 7-year deal. Now, we used existing art that first year that Drew had already created. And that's when a light bulb went off in my head. Bing, bing, bing. Wait a minute. We can get paid for art he's already made in the past. I like this deal. That's part of the magic. Now, let's see. So I told you I was going to tell you about 3 different levels of income that artists reach. So you've got your millionaire artist making millions off of licensing. You've got your 6-figure artist making 6 figures. That would be us. We would fall into that category. And then you've got your under five figures or less. So that's 0 to 100,000 a year in licensing deals. And most artists fall in that category because most artists, even artists that are just new to licensing or they maybe been dabbling in it a little bit, they might be making 500 a year in royalties. Now, one of the artists I coach just told me the other day that his children's art was licensed for a few years with a company that made products like puzzles and kids' toys. And every quarter, he got a check for between 40,000 and 50,000 every 3 months. It was a great deal. And that went on for quite a few years until the company went bankrupt and they closed their doors. And poof, now he's looking for another deal like that. Because that is what's possible. As a matter of fact, we did a license with Drew's art for underwear, cool underwear, not boring underwear. As you can see, it's super cool. Well, it was only a 6 month program. We came out with a number of designs. They were all limited edition, but our royalties came out to over $120,000 paid to us. And this was existing art. As a matter of fact, this particular artwork here started out as a painting, and we sell tons of art prints of it. And some girls are walking around wearing it, which is really cool. Here's another licensing deal we did that didn't make us very much money at all, but it's a cool product. It's a tiki mug made by the Tiki Farm, and we did a number of tiki mugs with them. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the $1 million artists first. I'm going to give you some examples. And so the first one that comes to mind for me is Wyland. Wyland is an artist that paints whales and sea life. And he was written up in Licensing Magazine a few years back, where he had hit, now don't quote me on this, somewhere around 10 million in licensing royalties in 1 year. That goes to show, and he's a living artist. Now, most of the artists that are making a lot of money in licensing are actually dead, like Andy Warhol, or Maxfield Parrish products. And then you've got like musicians, which also fall into the licensing category. So like Jimi Hendrix, his family makes gajillions, millions of dollars off of licensing his songs. So it works kind of the same way. So let's see. I got my notes here and I'm figuring out what do I want to tell you next. So that's the $1 million artist. Then the next level down is the 6-figure licensing artist, which is what my husband Drew is. And I'm going to show you another example. This is a product that just came out. This is a snowboard, the LibTech snowboard. This is a Drew Brophy snowboard. And as you can see, there's his logo. We make sure his name and logo goes on every licensed product. How do you get to that level? How do you get to the level of making 6 figures with licensing? Well, first of all, you have to have a distinct style, number one. Number two, you have to get kind of good at negotiating stuff. You have to get good at asking for money. But that's a whole nother topic. I'm not going to get into that here. Here we're just talking about licensing your art, how much money you can make licensing your art. All right, so the next level down is a 5-figure artist and under. And that probably is you, because that's a majority of the artists out there. And by the way, there are a lot of coaches that are teaching artists how to be a $500 a year licensed artist. And that really bothers me, because here's the thing. If you want to know how to do something, you've got to learn from somebody who's already doing it. And there are art coaches out there that are trying to teach how to do something they have not yet figured out for themselves. So when you see artists teaching art licensing and they're not making 1 to 500,000 a year in royalties, and that's your goal, you don't want to take their advice, because what happens is they will give you advice that will lead you to making as little as they are. And you will develop bad habits. So really be aware of that. Be aware of that. If you want to learn how to do be a $1 million licensed artist, look at the artists who are making millions of dollars. Follow their lead. Analyze what they're doing. If you want to learn how to earn 100 to 500,000 a year with art, join my mastermind. Hit the link below. Check it out. You can join for a month. And as a matter of fact, for for the rest of the month of November, I have a 7-day free trial. But even if you have to pay for just a month to join, do it. Check it out, because that's what this is, one of the many topics we talk about and we work through in the mastermind. All right, so back to where I was. Level the last level, up 0 to 5 figure artists. The 5 figure artists are made up of newbies, and most of them maybe don't know anything about licensing art, but they are finding their way. So I'm going to give you an example of some opportunities that are there for you right now. Okay. Um, Look around your town, the small town or the big town where you live, look at small businesses and look for a need. So, for example, if there's a gift shop and they have a really cool name, and they have a lot of traffic in that gift shop, but you notice they don't have any products with their name on it, like let's say tote bags, and you create art that kind of fits in with their demographic and their style. You could do what we call a licensing collaboration, and you could say, hey, how about I license you my art? We'll put your logo on it and we print it on, you can print, let them do the printing, by the way, because licensing, you're not touching the printing, they are. And you can print it on tote bags and sell them. And now it's like doing the branding work for them. That's just one simple example. Another one is licensing for a album cover for a band, or a single graphic for a song, a music single, concert tour. How about beer labels are great to start with. Beer labels, wine labels. I mean, and beer labels are easy because every big town has any number of breweries where they print their own labels. And would it be cool if your art paired with their beer cans? And this is just on a smaller level how you can get started, get some practice talking about licensing your art, get practice dealing with it. Okay, so back to the money. um so I so the first licensing deal we did, I'm trying to remember that far back. I think that very first one, we got paid like $1,200 flat fee for 2 years. There were no additional royalties. I think they made like 100,000 boogie boards. They got a great deal. After that, we started negotiating better deals. Now, do I have regret for doing a deal for $1,200, knowing they made 100,000 units and they should have paid us a ton more? Do I regret that? No, I don't regret it. I learned how to put a deal together, how to talk about it, how to demand that the name goes on the packaging. There were so many things that I learned. And then when we did the next deal with them the next year, we got more money. And then the next year, and we did 7 years in a row with Whammo. And by that last year, we were making a lot of money. It took, there was a learning curve and there was a development of the relationship and all that stuff. So never be afraid to make a bad deal. And if you're a member of my mastermind, I will walk you through the deal. I will help you put the deal together. But even if you do it on your own, don't be afraid of making a mistake. Look at it as a learning opportunity. So the bottom line is, how much money can you make with licensing your art? You'd be surprised when you hit on the right art with the right product. Like my friend that was, or my client, my artist friend client that was making 40 to 50,000 every quarter from the children's products. They had no expectation of making that much money. It just worked out. And like when we did this deal for the underwear, I had no idea it was going to bring in over 6 figures in less than 6 months. I couldn't even have guessed. Now, There are times that we went into a deal where we thought we were going to make a lot more money and we made less. And that also happens, but that's just business, babe. That's just business. So, anyway, I hope this was helpful. Drop a comment, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. And if you have any questions, ask me in the comments. I read every comment, I answer every comment, and I'm here for you. So I'm glad we got to spend this time together. I love you. I mean it. Have an awesome day.